Okay, so this is where we're going to actually take our concept here and turn it into a more finalized looking piece. So I'm going to look at this frame here. For me, it's the 16th page in the book that I'm creating, and actually draw it out how I would want it in the final piece. Okay, so again, this is our reference. I'm just going to move that out of frame a little bit and try to keep it somewhat visible. I can see that I am going to have some words up top, so I'm going to want to keep at least that much kind of open for words. Or if I wanted to, looking at this, I could actually move the words over here, okay? So I can have that entire light. So just going to erase here. So I know that the one piece I'm going to need to have is this person. And I'm going to have that actually be the narrator, the person that I'm having actually tell the whole story. So I'm going to start by just drawing out my circles, my circle person, okay. And I've got the arms here. Okay. So it's a little bit cattywampus, a little bit off, but that's just the rough outline, okay? And then we're going to have our light post here. Okay, we're gonna have the button. And the actual light itself. So I want to make that a little thinner. So notice how I'm just kind of like lightly sketching out lines. I'm not drawing too hard right now. It's totally fine if it doesn't look beautiful at this point. It doesn't have to be anything super fantastic. Okay, and there will be lines that you erase. It won't be perfect. Just draw lightly. Okay. Now I know that that's not proportionate, but hey, it's a kid's book. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So we'll go back over here, kind of just do some lines of what might I want it to look like. Okay. And then I do want to have, notice here I had like the entire, it's a slightly different view. It's not quite so zoomed in. I do want to still have some of the crosswalk. So I will have just a few lines. I'm going to have it like that. Just kind of poking through. And erase lines I don't want. Okay, so that's kind of roughly what I'm going to have on my page. Now I go through and I actually kind of outline and draw with thicker lines what I know I'm going to want. So I know that I want these, and I like that placement, so trying to make it just nice dark lines. Okay, I know that I want that, so looking at being a little more careful this time. That'll happen when you're drawing the darker lines, it's fine. I'm actually not going to finish down here because I want to actually make sure that I can get everything of my person in front. That way it looks like they're standing in front of this. Okay. And you could absolutely, another choice that you could make is to finalize and actually draw out your person first before doing the thicker lines. But now you can see where I'm going to actually overlap and make sure that I have those portions represented on the page. Okay. So now I know that my character has a slightly pointed jaw, so I'm going to pretend that her jaw goes right here. And this is where I'm a little more careful. I'm not just going willy-nilly. And then her neck. Okay. And then her shoulders. So that one's a little further away, so it's going to be smaller. Notice I'm doing, for this one, because I want it to be a little more intentional, I'm doing shorter strokes. So with these, I was doing the long lines. Here, I'm actually just doing short, kind of controlled strokes. Okay. Kind of using this as my, if this is the body and how wide things are, using it as the base. Okay. Again, this does not need to be perfect. So then I'm going to take my eraser and just kind of lightly go over this. I don't want to apply too much pressure because I still want to be able to easily see those outlines. I just kind of want to erase all those circles just to make sure that I actually like this. And I see that I kind of want to make that a little more there. Have that go there. I'm going to draw in the collar and the cuffs. Okay, and now for her hair. I have this character with really curly hair. Okay, got the bangs. And then got that. So I'm just doing kind of little jagged marks here to indicate really curly hair. And then she's got a top knot. Okay, and then again, lightly go over with that eraser so that you can just see mostly that dark outlining. Okay, and then kind of go over just a little bit more since this is the more detailed piece. Okay, so I like that. I think I'm going to stick with that. So now I'm going to take, you can see we're only going to be drawing in these dark lines, and I can actually make that extend down now. Okay. So I'm going to take the piece that I'm actually going to paint on. This is my watercolor paper, and set it all the way inside. So I folded this in half so I can just set that really nicely up in there. Okay. And then take my transfer paper, and you want the darker side to go down because that's got the carbon on it. That's the side that's actually going to transfer on. And then slide that in there as well. Okay, so again, we've got on top, we have the actual drawing, then we've got the transfer paper, and then we have the watercolor paper or whatever medium you will be painting onto. Okay. And then making sure everything's nice and snug because you don't want a bunch of stuff to shift, and making sure things are lined up. You are just going to go back over everything that is dark, all of these darkened lines. Okay. So I'm going to start over here and try not to put too much pressure on the paper because if I put a lot of pressure here and I hold it down too hard, then that's going to transfer because this transfer paper, it uses pressure to make marks on the paper below. So just hold it lightly and with single strokes, go over those dark lines with your pencil. Okay, and you don't need to apply too much pressure. Just a little bit will work. Okay, and I'm just going to lift this up, gently holding that down so you guys can see it's now transferring on. Okay, so it's just because we are going back over and transferring this top drawing on to the bottom piece. Okay. And again, I am actually putting less pressure on here than I was when I was drawing these dark lines in the first place. So you don't need much pressure at all. It's another reason you need to be really careful with how much pressure you're putting on it with your hand. Okay. You notice I just went out. That's going to be transferred exactly how I did it. So we got to be careful. I mean, that it's not too bad. It's not devastating or anything, but any mark that you make with the transfer paper is going to show up. Okay. Now for my character, I'm going to start at the shirt. Just outline that. Again, you do not need much pressure at all. And what's awesome is this transfer paper, you can actually use the same piece several times. So I've used this one piece for all of the pages I've already transferred, and I will actually be able to use this probably for like another year. And that's because you don't, again, need very much pressure at all. And it's jam-packed with a lot of carbon. Okay, and if you ever don't remember what you've already transferred, just gently lift that up, making sure that you are still holding it down on one side because you don't want stuff to shift. I've already forgotten. All right, so I need to do the face outline. The pants. The hands. I think that's it. Yes, it is. So then what I can do is remove the paper, and there we have it, our nice transferred piece. So you can see where I was actually putting a little bit more pressure over here on the things that I knew for sure were gonna be solid lines, and it was a little bit lighter over here, just in case I did mess up, because if you try to erase this, it doesn't erase very easily. So be careful, but this is how you kind of take a really rough kind of concept, sketch it out, make it a little more detailed, and actually create it how you want it to look. And it's okay if it's a little messy, and then transfer it to where the only thing that shows up is what you actually want. You could absolutely do this process on the piece that you want to actually have be the final book. But again, you can see that there are these lines. And so if you're using watercolor or other semi-transparent medium, like markers, some of that will show up. So that is how you go from concept to final drawing.